Welcome to the Mindscaped podcast. Politics, environment, history, mental health, business, religion, people, and philosophy. Escape to the real world.
Welcome to another episode of Mindscaped podcast with me, Nazir, and Shaheen. Shaheen, how you doing?
Great.
You saying great. Come on, man.
No,
We've got an amazing guest
I'm really
today.
looking forward to this conversation today. It's something that's needed.
Right.
It's something that I think you and I spoke about it for a while.
Yeah.
Finally, we got the guest to come to Durban.
All right.
And it's going to be an amazing podcast.
I hope you flew him first class. Huh? This man only can take first class.
Well, this man, because of his muscles, can only fit in first class.
He's a humble dude, no doubt. So today we've got a man that many people may know and some may not know. If you're a Durbanite, you may know him from the streets of Durban. But he's living now in Cape Town. He's a qualified master trainer, worked at Health and Racket when it was issued before Virgin Active, then almost 20 years with Virgin Active. He actually gave 19 years and 6 months, be specific. 24-year working experience, total training experience, 28 years. Worked at Virgin. Again, active Constantia and then Silo, currently based at a studio and home training. His clientele consisted of all types of athletes, celebrities, high-profile businessmen and women, general public. And this is what really shocked me was the achievements. I mean, ranked top 3 trainer, top SA trainer, revenue driver, Western Province Powerlifting 2001, SA Powerlifting 2001, World Champs Powerlifting 2001, SA Powerlifting first in 2005, World Powerlifting 6 2005, Western Province Muay Thai Champion 2006, Western Province Thai Boxing Champion 2006, SA Camp Thai Boxing Champion 2006, Boxing Pro Card 2006, training initiated from a history of childhood obesity, and that's where I want to start this conversation. Today, I welcome Fahiem Sha. Fahiem, welcome to the episode of Mindscape Podcast.
Thanks for having me here. It's been a great opportunity for me, and I would love to pass on a lot of knowledge that I can and inspire at least one person after this podcast.
Exactly why we do this, man. Right, Fahiem?
Yeah, of course. So, in your introduction, as you said, your journey started off because you were obese. Tell us about that. How did that journey start off? Were you medically diagnosed for you to take on this journey and change your life?
Yeah.
Or were you bullied? Because a lot of kids that are overweight actually get bullied.
Yeah.
So tell us about the journey and what got you into where you are today.
Okay. I think it was when I was about 11, and I started gaining weight around 11 years old, going on to 12 years old. And then at the age of 15, I weighed 109. And my waist reached the maximum of 50. I had a 50-inch waist.
What?
And the biggest challenge and nightmare was school uniform shopping in December. And the go-to shop for me was Dominions.
Oh, right.
Remember
right.
Dominions?
Yeah.
Big size men. And then after that, it was tailor-made pants.
Sure.
So as time carried on, the family motivated me. We started buying Tab to have at our meals. And I was the type of child that would eat my siblings' leftovers because I enjoyed eating. I'm not sure whether it was some form of comfort, I would say. And then it was actually a Saturday morning. I'm lying in bed. I can remember my mom was doing the washing. And I couldn't breathe. I felt very heavy on my chest. And then for me, it was an instant switch.
How old were you?
15, mid-15. So it was a build-up from 13 and a half, 14, the bulk of my weight. And then I went and worked at the workshop flea market for a guy selling watches. I made 200 Rand at the flea market, and then I enrolled in a gym called Players. I'm not sure if you can recall that. Players, Oldford Road.
Oldford Road, yeah.
Oldford Road.
I'm a bit younger than you guys.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was 200 Rand for a full year, which when I worked it out then, I still remember now it was 16 Rand a month, around 16 Rand a month. And in the first 2 months, with no knowledge, I just hit the circuit. I just knew I had to sweat and I had to eat boiled food. And there was my routine for over 2 months, and I lost 22 kilos. No knowledge, no specific knowledge. And there was two brothers at the gym, two Mauritian guys, two big bodybuilders who helped me every step of the way and guided me. Okay, now start eating extra protein, eat this carb, avoid this carb, and help me adjust into weight training. And since then, it was part of my life. We stayed in town. I should walk, I should measure, I think it was about 3Ks to Alford Road, Players Gym, and walk back. And I should train 7 days a week. I remember it was, there was a funeral in the family, and I still went in the morning to train and come back.
Commitment.
And it was, I won't say I was fanatical, but it was more the enjoyment of sweating. And if you look back now, the psychological endorphins pumping, like it was a high.
Right.
And as time went, I carried on training, and I was studying electrical then, and it didn't work out well. And then I told myself, what am I going to study? You know, I need. My dad said, listen, you got to make up your mind. You know what I mean? Things are not cheap to study.
Yeah.
So decide. And then I said, you know what? I'm training. Let me do personal training. And that time, personal training was like non-existent.
Would you say that was your passion at that time, or you were just growing into it?
I look at, I trained every day. And when I studied electrical, it didn't work out. And I told myself, well, what else can I do? Then I said, well, let me do something that I love. And then I said, okay, let me do personal training. My mom said, listen, you sure you want to do this? I said, yes. I love to do this. I love to train. Let's give it a shot.
But did you consider like the income sources? Is it profitable?
No. I remember there was a saying, if you love what you do, you'll be successful.
Wow. Okay.
Irrespective of the industry. And if you love what you do, you're never going to stop halfway.
Yeah.
You're going to keep on pushing because you're like this dry sponge. And then I started personal training. That time, the ETA was based at DHS High School. And I should walk from Carlisle Street all the way up to DHS High School. And my dad would walk up and walk back with me home. That's how it was.
And that's walking from town all the way up Sydenham Hill.
to go
Coming
study.
to the top, turning left, going down Musgrave Road to the school.
Yeah. You just said Sydenham Hill. I'm like, I'm out. That's not for me.
And then as I got to know the fellow students, there was another guy named Gerald, who was a very good trainer in Durban. He should give me a lift back home. And then I qualified. I started working at Health and Racket as a part-time flow instructor at the workshop. And then it was end of the year, so a lot of the permanent staff was on the annual leave. And then I wanted to get a permanent position, and I remember the lady, she said, listen, the fitness manager says, there's no permanent positions. And all I wanted to do was further my studies. So after that, I had an uncle in Cape Town, and he said, why don't you come give it a shot in Cape Town? Because there was not much happening in Durban at the gyms.
How old were you at that point?
By then I was 19. So I packed the bags, took a bus to Cape Town, went and applied at Health and Racket in Claremont, and I'm not sure which other Health and Racket, and I phoned a few, and they all refused me because the recruitment was frozen for their time. And when I trained at Constantia, in the time I was there, I didn't like the vibe because it was very white.
What year was this?
This was 2000.
2000. Okay. Early days.
2000. And coming from Durban and coming from training and working at the workshop branch, I felt out of place. So all the clubs refused me, and then I said, listen, the only option I have is to contact Constantia. So when I contacted Constantia, the fitness manager wasn't there. Anyway, the guy got back to me and he said, right, come for the interview tomorrow. Went for the interview and he said, right, you're starting on Sunday.
That was still Health and Racket? Or
That was still Health and Racket.
Right.
Still Health and Racket. Got the job, came home, came to my uncle's place while I was staying there, phoned home, told the family. Everyone was happy and I started work. And since then, being a flow instructor in Constantia, I was there, a flow instructor, for about 2 years. In that time, we still obviously trained members and stuff like that, but I wasn't a personal training position. But obviously as a flow instructor, you're still training people. And all I wanted to do was become a PT, wear that uniform personal trainer.
Yeah.
And
And you didn't know anything else that exists apart from that. It was just
that's it.
training. Yeah.
That's it. And Constantia, being a racist club at the time, the fitness manager was against me.
Right.
There was guys coming after me, after I've been there for over a year and a half. Worked 3 weeks as the floor instructor, and the guys became trainers.
Sure.
And I could see the vibe.
And those were whites?
White Afrikaners. And I went up to the fitness manager and I said, like, why are you refusing me? And he said, like, do you think you have what it takes to get to be a PT? And then the club manager told me, why didn't you apply for maintenance in a Mitchell's playing club or Athlone?
Sure.
I mean, if that's not racist, then what
Yeah,
is?
absolutely. Oof.
And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, and I walked out the office. And I was so shocked from what he said. And then I said, no one can put a good man down. I stayed in Plumstead. I should walk to work, which also were 3Ks. I should open the gym most of the time, which I should be there at 4:30 in the morning. There was one position that opened up and I applied for it and I had the same feedback. And then I built up the courage to say, if I don't get this position, I'm going to the CCMA. If there's anything that is required of me over and above what I have, tell me so I can work at it and get the position. This is all I have.
Yeah.
I was getting paid 2,000 in a month
Yo.
after tax. All I could afford was 90 cans of tuna for the month. At that time, it was $3.99 at Pick and Pay. So I ate 3 cans of tuna a day with sweet potato. I could afford a Nando's meal like every second month, which was a hot livers in a row. That was
I
my
mean,
treat.
that's some other kind of mindset, right? Yo.
And the guy turned blue in his face. And he said, okay, let me speak to the manager. And then we had the interview after a week. It was between myself and another guy, another Afrikaner guy, who should come drunk to work most of the time.
Yo.
And then he said, okay, it's between you and him. Why should we take you over him? And I said, at that time, we should have something called connecting points where you had to talk to members and management will come around and rate you and give you numbers and stuff. So I had all that going. They couldn't fault me in anything. And I said, how can you compare me to this guy? He comes to work drunk. He comes to work late.
Yeah.
And I said, if I don't get it, I'm going to the CCM. I'm done with you guys. And then so the next day they told me, okay, you got the position, you start next week. The word went around the gym from management saying, Fahiem will never survive. He'll be out. At that time, there was, and I was the first non-white personal trainer at Constantia.
That is round of applause. Absolutely. That's the one.
I got my uniform, which for me was like, it was wearing like a top-class suit.
Badge of honor.
Yeah.
Badge of honor.
Yeah. You worked for it. You earned it.
I got it. I fought for it. That was the first hurdle. Now the second hurdle is now to like, how am I going to make this work? So I got to the gym at 4:30. I trained at 5, showered and stuff, and I got ready at 6 o'clock. Now as a PT now, when you work for the gym, obviously you got to turn the clients from the membership. I trained, I sat at reception, I walked around, marketed myself. In that month that I started, that 6 weeks, I did more personal training sessions than any other permanent trainer in the gym. And by the way, I started off as a half-day PT. So I still worked 4 hours on the floor as an instructor.
Yeah.
And then I started PTing. So I knew, and I was getting 1,000 Rand. And then my board and lodge was 800 bucks. So I knew 800 was covered. I got 200 Rand for tuna. I'm sorted.
Yeah.
And then I built up and
How did you do that? How did you manage to get all these clients? What did you do so different compared to your...
I told myself, I have to be positive. There was no room for negativity. There was not 1% in my head that said, nah, maybe not. There was no 1%. It was just 100% positivity. So everyone I spoke to, marketed myself. I did everything that I needed to do to pick up clients. And then my first client, what an amazing lady. She called the gym.
White lady.
A white lady.
How did you find that? Dealing with... when you came in here, your peers and stuff were quite racist. But in the general population...
Yeah. Your clientele were going to be white people.
The members in the gym, I would say, was like a 70-30.
Okay.
70 were fine, and the 30% you could see, like, you know, when they spoke to you, condescending way, like, you know, what you're doing here and stuff. But I developed a thick skin, as they say. So she called the gym. She said, I'm looking for a trainer that's gonna take no shit. She said, the receptionist staff said, I got the right guy for you. And they gave me her number. I contacted her, my first client, and I started training her. She weighed 90 kilos. She lost 30 kilos.
Wow.
In a matter of 1.5 to 2 years. No quick fix.
Nice.
Right. She was willing to take the long haul of slow, consistent weight loss,
Yeah.
nutrition,
Toning.
training.
Yeah.
And I trained her. I trained the whole family. And then I built up all the way. And then Virgin Active Health and, well, at that time it changed to Virgin Active. We had this personal training incentive where we would be graded amongst the other trainers in the country on how many sessions stuff you do and etc. And I was ranked top 3 regional trainers for as long as we had that Virgin Active scheme. I was ranked top trainer for SA revenue driver for SA and UK.
Oh, wow.
We had another lady, a PT that came down from the UK. She said, no, we had your name on our board in the UK
Oh, look
under
at that.
Virgin Active.
Yeah.
And then from then, it just carried on. I went and studied sport-specific training, where you can train any type of athlete. You work according to the energy system. So for an example, if you're training a rugby squad, you train your prop differently to your wing, your center, because everyone has a different role, everyone has a different energy, everyone has a different power structure. And then you work on it's called a periodization program, where they main games, in-season, off-season, and you train them according to how they excel on the field.
Right.
And that was for me was like the most interesting thing out of my experience. And then since then, it's been training all types of people, celebrities, learning the game. The most experience I got and the most valued time was me being a flow instructor, which I look back and I said, if I didn't have that time being a flow instructor, I wouldn't have had or been where I am now as a PT.
So just for someone who doesn't understand, what's the difference between a flow instructor and a PT?
Okay, so a flow instructor is the guy who will manage the gym floor, make sure the gym is neat and clean.
Oh, okay.
In the
So
sense
when you
of
say
like-
that's was maintenance then, or is that different?
No. So like if there's dumbbells on the floor and stuff, you're not gonna call a cleaner for it. I mean,
Right,
the
right.
cleaners were there just to clean the gym.
Okay.
So you made sure the gym looked neat.
Yeah.
You were there to assist the members in their programs, assist them.
So
when
that
they-
floor management kind of thing was what you were using to observe the
100%.
nature of people,
100%.
and that's when. So were you interacting at that time also with people?
100%. I mean, you met a lot of people. Constantia was a place where a lot of holidaymakers came down.
Right.
December was Joburg people. There was a lot of foreigners that had homes in Constantia. So you had a broad spectrum of people, different backgrounds, different training backgrounds, different nutrition, and you learned and observed. And what was happening in the US, what was happening in Canada, what was happening in Italy with the fitness. And you kind of like see, okay, like, how can I put this together? And a lot of the stuff I went through myself when it came to certain ways of eating, certain ways of training. So I've done most of it. I won't say I've done everything, but
Yeah.
I've done most of it. And I found out what works for me. And that's the thing. You got to find out what works for you. Yeah, in the time, so I was at Constantia for 16 years, built up a clientele base, and then eventually when I got to the 15th year, I started to feel like I'm losing my fire. It was the same direction to work and back. You know, it was the same thing, same people,
Yeah.
same clients. Business was good.
Monotony.
Monotony.
Yeah.
And then the Virgin said that there's a classic gym opening up, a collection club. The first one is at Melrose Arch, and then Mainland Main, and then they said there's one opening up at the Waterfront Silo. And when I was told that, I contacted the manager immediately after the meeting, and I put my CV forward. And the guy said, listen, it's only opened up in 18 months. I said, no, put my name down.
Yeah.
And he said, we're only taking 4 trainers in the country, but we'll keep you in mind. And then the process came, and interviews came, 2 interviews. I got the position, 4 trainers started, and I was at Silo for 3 years. I thought Constantia was snobbish. Whoa, Silo,
Now you're in the depth.
Silo.
Now you're in the depth.
different ballgame. However,
Different
There's a lot
world
of
bracket
good-
as well.
there's a lot of, different money.
Yeah.
A lot of good people. And a lot of people that, how can I put it to you?
Say it.
It's a podcast.
Snobs. A lot of people think money can buy you.
Right.
It was shocking. And then I told myself, oh, this is not me. But then you have to become a different person. I had people that walked past me for 3 years. I mean, it's my job as a PT and a staff member to greet. And
Yeah.
we were sent for 5-star hotel training before going and becoming and you have to qualify for that before becoming a
You
staff
serious?
member at Silo. Yeah,
It's like hospitality.
So it
and-
was about service,
Sure.
service.
I never knew they do that.
Yeah, because in Silo, in the gyms he mentioned, you have polishing of shoes, ironing your clothing. They offer all these services. And when
Right.
I was in Johannesburg, not Mainland, the other one,
Melrose.
Melrose,
Yeah.
they got a butler there. Like someone that looks like my grandfather wearing a suit. And I was like, whoa, this is too
Life
much
of the
for me.
rich and the famous, man.
And for everyone else in Joburg, yeah, it's fine. It's just whatever.
Yeah,
As we say in South Africa, one day is one day.
Yeah, so that's been the journey. A lot of experience I've had. A lot of times I've been humbled. You know, we develop sometimes a bit of sometimes your confidence can fall over to a bit of arrogance,
Yeah.
which glad you see your shortcomings and you pull back and you realize, wow, you know what? Okay, you're good at what you do. There's always someone better than you. You know what I mean? And
You can learn from somewhere.
that's it. I mean, I should learn from little kids coming to the gym and doing something silly. I'm like, whoa, that's working your obliques, that's working your lower back. And no, let me try this out on myself first and then implement it with the clientele. And in today's time, what you see with trainers generally, they do, firstly, a lot of them are inexperienced. Secondly, a lot of them follow what they see on Instagram
Yeah.
and TikTok. Have no idea what's it for. But I've had trainers come up to me and say, I'm doing this with my client. What's it for? You know, I've seen it somewhere, you know, what do you think? And then the first thing I say, well, when you get a client and the client gives you the goals, you need to train them and plan their program according to their goals.
Yeah.
Not what you see that looks fancy.
Ah,
Fancy
right,
looks
right.
fancy, doesn't mean it's effective. Sometimes that boarding barbell curls and shoulder press is doing the job. It may not be fancy, but yet you can include some fancy, effective things in the program.
Yeah.
So the client doesn't get bored. But you as a trainer has to make sure your client doesn't get bored. And I see that a lot in today's time, especially when the big major gym franchises are raking in trainers because they have to achieve a certain budget.
Yeah.
And it's more about now the numbers, not the quality. Yeah, so that's where we are today with regards to training. I find a lot of people, especially when it comes to nutrition, and especially with social media, with so much bullshit out there. And people contacting me, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? I say, okay, where are you now? Okay, so you are at a certain position, you're in a certain place in your life where you're consuming 60% of junk in a week. Okay, the first thing you got to do is eliminate the junk.
Yeah.
The first thing was that junk is excessive calories. Pull out the junk, you already will lose weight without training.
Yeah. I just heard of someone this morning who was telling me, I mean, I'm really overweight, 140 kgs. And I was like, okay. He says, no, I tell the driver every morning to get me a McDonald's. I was like, okay, you're kidding me. Like every
Firstly,
morning.
he's supposed to be boycotting McDonald's.
Okay, that's another story for another day. But bro, no, this guy's serious. Serious. He's like, I tell the driver every morning to get me a McDonald's. That's like not rocket science. That's the first thing you should be stopping. That's the easiest thing to stop. He's like, yeah, I just don't know why I do it. It's just habit.
Guy's married, family.
Married family.
So where's his breakfast?
I have no idea.
At McDonald's.
Yeah, it's McDonald's. My daddy's McDonald's. Yeah.
You know, sometimes someone told me, sometimes money can be a curse.
Yeah.
Because you have so many things available to you.
100%.
So you just become greedy and become so accessible that you
Yeah.
lose track of what's supposed to be priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's actually a curse.
Sure.
So how important is nutrition to when anyone goes on a journey? So a lot of people believe I need to do 100 crunches to get a six-pack. Not realizing a six-pack is made in the kitchen.
100%.
So enlighten us more on that and how to dial into your nutrition and how important is it, the new trend now when you speak to a lot of people, I'm counting calories. How important is that to track your calories and to count your calories?
It's all about calories. Calories in, calories out. Okay, so let's get to the basics. Okay, we all heard that saying: you cannot out-train a bad diet.
You cannot?
Out-train a bad diet.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's the first time I heard about that.
You need to give that to the McDonald's guy.
Let me give you an example. It's just one example that I give all my clients. If you look at KFC Streetwise 2,
Yeah.
at the time when I did the research, it was 90 grams of fat. Okay. Now, the chicken is not bad. It's protein. It's the crumbs and obviously the deep fry that escalates the fat. And at that time, a Nando's chicken breast, it's cooked on a mesh.
Yeah.
There was 2 grams of fat. So you got 90 grams and 2 grams. I mean, if you look at a guy our size, or average person, maybe a kid will have a Streetwise 2.
Yeah.
But average person, Streetwise 2 is like, it's a starter, you know? So if you look at it, that one starter has 90 grams of fat. And how small is that portion of food?
Yeah.
And if you look at the Nando's breast is 2 grams of fat. That's almost 45 breasts.
Oof.
You got to eat 45 Nando's breasts to 90 grams of fat of a Streetwise 2. 45 breasts is like 2 weeks of food in protein-wise. So a lot of people think because it looks small, it can't be bad for you.
Yeah.
It's just 2 pieces of chicken.
More piece
But
of chocolate.
It's all piece of chocolate. You know, it's the amount of calories in there.
Right.
Now if you look at like say like 5 slices of bread, will give you about, depends on what bread you're having, about 40 to 60 grams of carbs,
Yeah.
which is processed carbs. Now, what does it mean a process? Processed is anything that's made, man-made. Unprocessed is something that's natural from the ground.
Right.
Rice, potatoes. Your processed stuff, you got your bread, your pastas, your rotis, your flour, all that's processed. So if you look at five slices of bread is between 40 to 60 grams of carbs. 1 cup of basmati rice cooked, it's about 40 to 45 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
So I can have 1.5 cups of basmati rice for the bread that's cleaner. If you get 1.5 cups of rice on a plate, that's a massive portion of food.
Yeah.
But your 5 slices of bread. If I have to eat bread, 5 slices is nothing. 5 slices is not, I eat half a loaf. Because I don't get full with it.
Okay.
Why? The way my body's in tune, it's not natural. I eat half a cup of rice with some protein and I get full.
But our generations for years, I mean, bread is part of breaking bread from Jesus' time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how come, was it because of the lifestyle that was different? And the type of bread, right?
The biggest thing
Not this process.
is the lack of knowledge
Right.
from people that people don't have. And me being in the industry, if I go back when I started at Health and Racket, Virgin Active, and being in the fitness industry on nutrition and training and stuff, and then you come back to Durban for holiday and you're like, look at the people, and it's like, wow, people are stuck in the dark ages with nutrition. And when we were growing up, we were always visiting people in hospital. Sugar, cholesterol, and
Diabetes.
you become conditioned like, okay, this is how life is going to be. When I'm 40, I'm going to end up in hospital because you're seeing and visiting so many members of the family. But that's just from lack of knowledge. I won't say poor choices.
Right.
Lack of knowledge obviously leads to poor choices. But just the knowledge, the way we are brought up. And obviously, if you look at the history of our father's generation growing up, they were just hardworking people. But then, we didn't have GMO. We still had good food. That generation was more physically active. They may not be in training,
Right.
but they were more physically active. So they were still
Walking, less cars, one access. Okay.
take a walk to work, take a
Yeah.
walk to the bus
Bicycle,
stop,
yeah.
walk back, walk to school, after classes, you walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were burning off more calories.
Right. Right.
And because the food was cleaner then you were having the eggs and the butter and the ghee. But that generation, obesity was small. They say by 2045 or 2050, half the world will be obese. Half the world.
and then we have poverty like rates which are
I saw something.
yo that's
I saw something
amazing.
quite interesting.